Breaking news now, and that's that a Sudanese asylum seeker, Deng Choi Majek, has been jailed at Coventry Crown Court for life with a minimum of 29 years for murdering the hotel worker Rhiannon White. That was on a railway station in Walsall. Passing sentence at Coventry Crown Court, Mr Justice Sewell said the Sudanese national had acted with a chilling composure in every aspect of your behaviour when he killed the 27-year-old in October 2024. We know that Rhiannon White died 3 days after Majek stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver at that train station in Walsall. Her mother said she wasn't just my daughter, she was my best friend. She called her sister called Rhiannon White the best of us. Majek is a Sudanese national who arrived in the UK on a small boat less than 3 months before the attack. He was living at a hotel where Rhiannon White worked, and this was just an absolutely horrendous, brutal and awful murder. And we know that the sentence for murder is imprisonment for life, said the judge, setting his minimum term to 29 years. And that is the breaking news that the Sudanese asylum seeker Deng Choi Majek, who was here for less than 3 months before he murdered Rhiannon White by stabbing her with a screwdriver, he has been jailed at Coventry Crown Court for life with a minimum of 29 years. Right then, I want to talk about people leaving this country. This is Millionaires on the Move, the UK bracing for historic wealth flight as global migration peaks. And we hear that immigration and people coming to this country, the net migration number is coming down a little bit. But some of that, at least, in fact, a fair proportion of it, is people who are leaving because they don't like the tax regime, they don't like the cost of living in this country. They're often moving to places like Dubai. You're talking about millionaires, yes, but you're also talking about young people as well who perhaps want to get in the housing ladder, are looking at a better remunerated life in somewhere like Dubai, and they are then moving there for a short time or a few years and then coming back. But the millionaires are what this report is about. And Michael Simmons is the economics editor of The Spectator, who is that rare beast, Michael, that can take complex economic data and translate it into English for people like me who got a B in GCSE maths. Michael, just tell us what's happening here and why it's happening.
Well, it's a bit of a tricky thing to understand in the data here, because there's actually two things going on at once. So on the one hand, as you say, net migration is coming down because emigration from the UK is going up. But actually, the bulk of that number is not what we might think straight away. It's not actually, Brits fleeing the UK. It appears to be Boris wave people, migrants that came in sort of 2021, actually deciding to go home. And I think that's something that's not been picked up
Very interesting.
on
Yep.
yet.
Okay.
However, beside that, you're completely right to say that there is this phenomenon of this millionaire exodus. And it was estimated that last year, 16,500 dollar millionaires left the UK, more than any other country. Now, that group is small enough that you don't see them in the official migration figures, but they're big enough to make a difference to the tax take, because the top 1% of earners in this country, as you know, pay something like 28% of all income tax. So even though this exodus isn't enough to appear in the migration figures, as Brits alone, it's enough to really hamper the taxman.
Yes, and certainly there will be people who just say, oh, well, millionaires, they can do whatever they like. But actually they can, because they have what money gives you is choice, doesn't it? And actually, if you want to move somewhere else, and so much is highly mobile, there are people who can do their jobs, sometimes jobs that are based in the UK, but they do them elsewhere. I have a friend, for example, who works for an Irish firm that does work in continental Europe, but he lives in London, and most of the work he does is from Zoom, or they have a little satellite office there. This is just something that's becoming bigger and bigger, isn't it? And the sort of difference between something that was actually written about in The Spectator some years ago about the somewheres and the anywheres, the people who are tied to somewhere geographically, versus people who can really work anywhere. And the more money you have, the more likely you are to have that kind of freedom.
Well, exactly. You're completely right. And, Britain is not a country that makes things anymore. This is a service economy, and there's many benefits to that. But one of the pitfalls is, as you say, services can be provided basically anywhere. So it's easy for people to flitter in here and flitter out. And obviously, you've pointed to tax as being one of the reasons why, young people, you increasingly do see them appearing in the figures in Australia and Dubai. And then the mega rich, the kind of non-doms, are leaving here. The actual tax being too high is one of it. But another aspect that gets kind of quoted, if you speak to these people or if you speak to the firms that represent wealthy individuals, and they mention all the time, is not just the tax take, it's how frequently we have these U-turns and changes. I mean, a lot of wealthy people don't actually mind coming to Britain and paying much higher tax than they would pay in Dubai or in Texas, because they enjoy living in Britain. They enjoy, what the amazing things about this country. But what they want to do is to be able to plan their finances on sort of a 10, 20-year time frame.
Well, you want a bit of stability, and that's what's been sorely lacking in our political and economic system for such a long time. Michael, as always, thank you for decoding all of that. Michael Simmons, economics editor at The Spectator.